finding your ideal career requires strategy, self-knowledge, and consistency. Today, we dive into the core steps of the career hunt process, starting with the advice to be open, go to as many things as you possibly can, and let your curiosity explore. Learn why seeking out professionals further down the road is crucial, as almost every single one of them is open to help when asked. We also discuss how to pick the right high-growth company using venture capitalists as a proxy and prioritizing the right manager over the specific entry-level role. Finally, hear how honing your natural superpower and using tools like StrengthsFinders allows you to tell a powerful, confident narrative in any interview. It's time to be intentional and build the story of your success.
First, be open. Go to as many things as you possibly can, whether that's seminars, networking groups, career fairs. Just learn. Go down the wormhole, as Matt suggested. So that's one place to stop. Curiosity. You let your curiosity explore. Second, and it's a bit of a theme, but seek out someone, whether it's the grade ahead of you, someone that's recently graduated, someone that you can find in your network that is in a career that you think you'd like to pursue. I can't tell you how far that has taken me. I was encouraged to do that. And what I learned through that process was, whether it was a business owner like Matt, or other professionals that had been much further down the road, almost every single one of them wanted to help when you asked for it. So ask for that help. I think most of them see themselves through you. They're a younger version of themselves through you if you're willing to put yourself out there. So I just encourage you to take as many opportunities as you could to pursue what you're interested in and the people you're interested in. Most of them want to help. The willingness for someone to help you, you better act on it then. It's just like getting referred to somebody. If someone's going to put their name out there and on your name, you have to respect that and have 100%.
If I were to start over, what I would recommend for someone coming out of school is number one thing you should do is pick the right company.
That's so are you supposed to do that with investing too? And I've never done that right. How the hell do you pick the right company?
So let me tell you, and I'll tell you how I did. Because I picked, and let me tell you how the rationale that I used. And so picking the right company means finding that obviously something that's high growth. And if you're young and you don't understand the tech space yet, how do you know which company is good, which is bad? I would use venture capitalists as a proxy for what's good. So when I picked Google at the time, it was not clear Google was going to become what it is today, right? It was making a little bit of money, but it was nothing compared to Yahoo at the time. I went there because it had the two top venture capital firms, Sequoia Capital and Kleiner Perkins, were investors in it. And I figured those investors and the people that were on the board were smart enough to know which company is the right one. So that's why I was excited to go there.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So you're using indicators. Any other indicators besides where the venture capitalists are putting their money? That's a kind of an easy sign. And venture capitalists make mistakes, but the two top ones don't usually combine to make a mistake.
That's right. Yeah. So the other thing I would say you can do is, they didn't have it when I was starting off, but they do now. All these venture capital firms have their own internal recruiting firms inside the venture capital firms that help hire for their portfolio companies. So what I would do is I would contact that recruiter. You can find them on LinkedIn as from the top, say 5 or 10 VC firms, and ask them, what are their most successful portfolio companies? Because even, it's the Pareto principle, right? There's the top 20 firms and the rest, the 80% are all going to end up not doing that well. So you want to make sure you go to the top 20% in the portfolio of the top VCs. And the recruiter will tell you, like, hey, this company's like growing like crazy. This one's doing really well. And even if you get an entry-level job, it doesn't matter, right? It's a matter of going to the right company. That's the first thing. So I'd start there. The second is, if the second I would say is pick the right manager. So to the extent you can get an interview at one of those companies, can you go work for somebody that's going to help you grow? That's the second thing I would look at.
Not the department,
no,
but the person. So it may be HR, it may be sales, it may be facilities management.
Doesn't matter. Get in, right? So a great quote from our old CEO from from Google was, if you find a rocket ship, you just grab any seat you can get and hold on. And so when you see these companies like a Google or a Facebook, and I had a lot of colleagues that went to Facebook or went to Airbnb, these great companies, it doesn't matter where you started, because the growth of these companies is so great. And if you execute, you're going to do well and you're going to grow in there.
So you're going from facilities management to finance because it pops up.
Exactly. So the third, I mean, the least important of the three is picking the right role in those firms. The more important is getting in. And then whatever role you get, just execute really well. Be awesome in that role and be open to new opportunities within the company. Because any company that's growing that fast, a couple 100% a year, there's going to be opportunities that pop up. And just make sure you have your name in the hat to be picked.
If I could be in my shoes 10 years ago, talking to myself today, I think one thing I've learned is to continue to be curious and try and learn as much as you can, but embrace what you're naturally good at. And I've got a couple things I think I'm better at naturally than others, but it's really combining those traits. The people that are running companies are the best at their job, can do their superpower very well, but then they can relate on the other side too. The best heads of research can engage with clients and they can really break down, all right, here's what I'm telling you, but here's what I'm actually telling you. And the best sales persona can relate to that quant who's really, really, really focused on data and whatever that forecast might be, but they can tell it in a way that's going to connect. So I ultimately think anyone who's really successful, whatever they do, you've got a lot of relatability, and it's a lot of emotional reading there. And whatever that superpower skill set is that you have, hone that and don't try and be something that you're not. And that's something that's taken me some time to figure out and learn myself. But it's definitely something I wish I had known moving forward, as opposed to taking all these classes so you can be more well-rounded. And you're like, that's probably not your superpower. Focus on that. And so that, anyone can work in finance, whether you're really good at finance or you're really good at marketing or digital advertising and SEO optimization. There's a job for you. It's just finding the career and the company that you like working with. That's really where it comes into play.
A few years ago, a faith community that I was part of used this book called StrengthsFinders by Gallup. And it's a great book. It's $20 or so. And essentially, it looks at strengths. Often in American culture, we're often looking at where our weaknesses are. Oh, I need to improve on this, this, and this. But it's our natural strengths and giftings. If we do more of them, we will succeed. If you have someone in the role and they're doing what they're great at, they're going to be amazing. And so for me, the StrengthsFinders wasn't a surprise to me. I took it later in my career, but it helped create just an affirmation and also a greater understanding of my narrative. My top 5 are communication, woo, connectedness, includer, and arranger. And so, we hopefully have a career that's 40 years or so. So I don't think I'm going to be a talent acquisition for the next 30 years. I doubt it, right? But I know that whatever I go to career-wise, if I'm not really in those strengths, then I'm just not where I'm going to really shine. I'm not where I'm going to feel like I am flourishing or I'm being excellent. If I'm constantly in strengths that aren't my natural ones, that's a hard place to be. I know there's got to be someone listening who's saying, especially when the topic of strengths come up, maybe you're a college student right now, you have a strength. Every single person is created with strengths. Now, they might not be traditional strengths or ones that are celebrated. I mean, there's definitely strengths that are celebrated culturally and in the American way. But I guarantee you, everybody listening has specific strengths. So you have to just embrace those and get to know those. And in a few years, when you're interviewing for your first job, you're going to be light on experience. You're going to be either doing a Zoom or a phone call with someone like me. And I'm asking, tell me about yourself. And you're not really going to be able to say all the amazing things that you've done yet because you're 21, 22, and you don't have that many years behind you. But you can tell me about how I'm really great at analytical skills, or have great strategy approach, or I really feel like empathy is a strong gift of mine. And that's why it fits in this particular role. You have to be able to tell a narrative. And knowing your strengths, what a gift that is for yourself to feel more confident. But then also when you're presenting yourself to a company, or if you're entrepreneurial and you need to present yourself in your vision, you might have an amazing idea, but if you can't communicate that amazing idea or to investors to really inspire them, then you're stuck, So just really embrace just being able to tell a really strong narrative.
Definitely think just from like a raw, you know, CV perspective and how do you actually stand out. I think, just having United States Peace Corps on my resume, um, as I'm applying to business school at the time, that was different. And, there's a lot of super smart people that are trying to, get into business schools or trying to crack into whatever the top company is. And you're reading a pile of resumes, 100 resumes. What is the thing that makes you stand out? And something like Peace Corps, I think, is a great example. So that's not why you do the Peace Corps, but I would just say that's one of those examples of a side door. And there's a series of those things that have helped me, make it to the place in life where I have the fortune to go to the New York Stock Exchange and do those types of things. I think you deal with your circumstances for sure. And like that's what's thrown at you and you make something of that. And I applaud everybody and most people, frankly, who've had a harder time than I have in life and they've been able to make something of it. And you don't have to make a mountain for that something to be really extraordinary. So I think you're right. You got to make the most of what you have. But again, what I'm saying here is there's this concept of differentiation. Like we all start off with like the same looking piece of paper, let's call it. And how do you stand out? You got to be really good at certain things. I also think you have to have experiences that make you stand out. And an experience can't be, I'm going to go dabble for a couple weeks and claim that that's monumental. It has to be something that you're going to dedicate a lot of time to. And again, Peace Corps is an example. That's a 2-year commitment. So if you're willing to, put your life on hold for a couple years, go overseas, work really hard, drink out of a well in some cases for a couple years, then I think that demonstrates that, you can stand up to some of the scrutiny or some of the hardships that, corporate America might show at you.
I think the listeners are, either one of two categories. They're either going through college, whether you're a freshman or, junior, senior. But if you're a senior, that means you're coming out of college or you just started your career. So those are the two kind of paths and categories that I think the audience really hits on. And I think what I've observed is that there's it's really important to make sure that your story that you want as a result of the outcome you're looking for. Who are you? What gets you fired up? What gets you excited to wake up? How do you turn Monday morning into not a dread but a fun sort of new day? So what is that story that kind of gets you excited and it gets you fired up? And then what are your actions doing to contribute to that story being validated? So same thing if you're just graduating and you're looking for your new job, you have to be intentional and you have to have consistency around what it is you want without confusion, because nobody really wants to bet on you while you figure your life out, because that's expensive. Yeah. And so you have to have that baked. Hopefully earlier on, but if you're just starting your career, it's not too late. And then making sure you have consistency in those decisions you're making as well. And so like if you're going into your freshman year, try really hard to go get an internship. Try really hard, and making sure you're not just getting an internship where you're following somebody around. The time that I actually talked to somebody who said, "Hey, I did an internship my freshman year and I'm looking for the next one." And they said, "What'd you do?" I was like, "Well, I followed somebody around. I observed. I did this. I did that." Be specific. What did you learn? How did you grow? What projects did you take on? And then what's the next part of your internship as a result? Did you like the category and maybe you want to try a different role? Did you hone in and learn and interview people or talk to people that are in different departments? I think it's really important that you take that seriously.
College Works and National Services Group was really, an entrance for me into business that was, when looking back at it, one of the most impactful, I think, for my career, because it really quickly set me on a path where I didn't have a lot of focus, and it helped me understand where I needed to put effort and where I didn't. And I think that was super important. And it also because I did quite well working in College Works, it gave me a sense of accomplishment and some very much needed confidence that, you know what, I can do this. And I think that I'm very appreciative of those opportunities. But I think that, you know, those opportunities helped in as far as business skills for me to kind of hone a couple of things that I didn't understand when I first left high school and started college, which was a foundational base in business is one of the most important things that you can have that ultimately drives success later in your career. And by foundational things in business, I'm talking about an understanding of organization, networking, time management, these sorts of things that you kind of hear in entry business classes, but until you have the experience of implementing those in an entrepreneurial fashion, you don't quite realize how important those foundations to business are. And really, to the rest of what has been my career, those have been founding principles that have led to my success in every position that I've held.
Wake